Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining in another week. Have a great show planned for you. Later on, I'll have with me Lindsey McGlaughlin, who is an account executive at Wheelhouse Creative, who serves as the marketing manager at Ogilvy. We'll be talking about all things Ogilvy up and coming. But first, we'll start with some of our usual features. Current events here locally. A lot of talk about a bank that wanted to put a branch in the Edgewood section of Wheeling, and a lot of controversy surrounding that. And City Council this week voted 4-3 against the bank going into that location, against the rezoning that would allow a bank to be there. And there were a lot of residents in that area who voiced opposition to a bank going there. This is in the old church, the old Edgewood Lutheran Church building that's been vacated by that church. I think they're now up in Bethlehem, another part of town. But, you know, that's an empty structure right now. It's, seen better days. And the thought by some was, look, let's not let this continue to fall apart and then have an eyesore here right in the middle of the nice part of town. But the residents said, hey, we don't want a bank here. We don't want a commercial activity. And others were saying in opposition or in favor of the bank, saying, hey, look, there's all kind of commercial stuff right across the street. Look, you got a plumbing store, and you've got clothing stores. We've got all these things. What's wrong with it being on this side? So very, very controversial and a split vote, a little bit unusual with the makeup of our current city council. They're usually, unanimous or close to unanimous with their votes, but it was a 4-3 decision. And I've thought a lot about this too. I really don't have any dog in the fight. I didn't really care because I don't have any interest in that particular area there. But in terms of just somebody living here in the city of Wheeling, I do like to see our neighborhoods preserved as much as possible. I think, decades and decades ago, there was a mistake made in allowing so many businesses to go out into the other areas away from downtown. That's part of what contributed to downtown declining, was that businesses didn't stay downtown for various reasons. Parking may be more convenient in other places. It may be where more people are living, so they frequent those businesses more. But there's always that balance between preserving the neighborhoods and then also business development and people wanting things to be close to them, particularly things like banks where they can get to it easy when they're coming home from work and they only have a few minutes, that type of thing. So very interesting debate here, and I think it was interesting that it did come out 4-3 because it just goes to show that people really did take their time and think about this, and some people were persuaded one way, some in the other. But we do need to find ways, I think, here in the local area to say, okay, how do we develop the local economy at the same time preserve our neighborhoods and maintain the character of neighborhoods. I know even I have my office, my law firm out on National Road, and it's very important to us to try to maintain the historic nature of our office building. It still looks like a house even though it's an office, and we really try to keep it up so it looks nice there in the neighborhood. I have a couple other office locations there that I really try to keep looking nice in other towns as well. So I get it, but we'll continue to follow that and see what happens now with that piece of property, and see if anyone else comes along and does something there. To me, it seems like there are some good potential uses for it that wouldn't necessarily be commercial, so we'll see if somebody gets involved and does something there. I'll give you a legal tip here this week too, and that is, what is medical payments coverage that you can buy in your automobile policy? A lot of people don't understand what is medical payments coverage and why would I want to have it. First of all, it's pretty cheap. It's not that expensive to add that to your auto policy, but the reason to have it, because some people say, well, I have health insurance. Why would I need medical payments coverage? Well, there's a couple reasons. One is that with your health insurance comes deductibles, comes co-insurance, co-pays, things of that nature. Medical payments coverage covers you or anybody in your vehicle, or you if you were in another vehicle, or even maybe outside of your vehicle but involved in an auto accident. And it provides coverage regardless of whose fault it is. So, it doesn't matter whether it's your fault, someone else's fault, or whoever's fault. If you were in your vehicle or someone else is in your vehicle and they're injured in some way as a result of an automobile accident, then they will have coverage up to the amount of the limit. Sometimes it's $1,000, sometimes it's $5,000. Some people have 10, or I've even seen $25,000 in medical payments coverage. But anyway, that will cover your bills related to that incident up to that amount. And that can be important, like I said, because if you have co-pays from your health insurance, you may say, where am I going to come up with this money for these co-pays? Well, your medical payments coverage could do that. You may need some type of test or something that your health insurance won't approve. The medical payments coverage can come in handy in that regard. So it's important to have. And And like I said, it applies regardless of who's at fault for the wreck. So even if it's your own fault, and that's one of the good reasons to have medical payments coverage as well, is that let's say you cause an accident, but you get hurt in the accident. Well, the other person's insurance is going to pay you because it wasn't their fault. So you need to have some type of no-fault coverage on your own, and particularly if you don't have health insurance, then this would cover, perhaps all of the bill up to the limits of the coverage. The one thing that's been frustrating to me that I've seen through the years is that some of these insurance companies won't pay it in a timely manner. They'll drag things out. Sometimes won't pay it at all, and then people need a lawyer on something that really you shouldn't need a lawyer for. It's what it is, a no-fault coverage. If you have a bill related to that thing, for example, you're taken in an ambulance, it seems pretty clear that it was related to that accident, they should pay it. You get treated at the emergency room, have x-rays done, they should pay that. You follow up with your doctor and he says, hey, you need physical therapy, and you get the physical therapist, they should pay that. But I've seen insurance companies drag things out and drag them out and drag them out, and that's when, unfortunately, a lawyer has to get involved, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to help people in that regard, but insurance companies should do things the right way if they're going to sell that coverage. So anyway, that's what that's all about, but I do recommend buying it because it can come in handy if you unfortunately need it. Also give you a quote this week. Fall is here, and one of my favorite times of year, probably my favorite season of the 4 seasons, and for so many reasons. But this quote is by Helen Hunt Jackson, who was an American poet and writer, and she said, by all these lovely tokens, September days are here, with summer's best of weather and autumn's best of cheer. And I thought about that, and it's one of the things I do like about September, particularly the end of September. You still do have some of that summer weather during the daytime where it's nice and warm and you can go outside and do things. Then you get a little bit cooler at night. And I really love that time of year when it's hot during the day, cool at night. But also autumn it does bring a lot of cheer to people. In terms of it's just seeing the leaves change, seeing the different colors. You really see so much of God's creation during this time of year. I think you see it in spring also, but I just, when things bloom, it's a different sense, but this is kind of, what's coming next. Winter is coming, so it's kind of like that just nice feeling to know that, hey, this is our last nice weather. It's still a time to be outside before winter comes. That's one of the reasons I love living here in this local area, is to have the 4 seasons. I mean, I love certain parts of this country that don't experience that, like Florida and California, et cetera. But I really like being where the seasons change, and certainly fall is my favorite time. And the fact that football is during this time of year doesn't hurt. And also doesn't hurt that Ogilvy Fest is during this time of year. And we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I'll be talking with Lindsey McGlaughlin, who's the marketing manager at Ogilvy. We're talking about Ogilvy Fest and all other things Ogilvy. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show. People in nursing homes are some of the most vulnerable members of our society. They're there because they can't take care of themselves. Those facilities have a duty to take care of our loved ones, and when they don't, it's important they're held accountable. We've not only collected record results against negligent nursing homes, but more importantly, we've helped so many families get the answers and closure they so badly needed.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Neil Brown. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week's no different. I have with me Lindsey McGlaughlin, who's an account executive at Wheelhouse Creative, who also serves as the marketing manager at Ogilvy. Lindsey, thanks for being here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I mentioned before we went to break that fall's my favorite time of year, and I talked about football, but also Ogilvy Fest makes it a favorite here in the local area, and It'll be here before we know it.
It's true. So fall is one of my favorite seasons as well, and there's so much going on at the park, and it does all kick off with Ogilvy Fest, as you mentioned. So that's the first weekend in October, the 4th through the 6th, and what some folks might not realize is it actually started in 1978 in honor of the park's 50th birthday, and it was such a success that it's carried on still till today, and it's more of a token of appreciation, a way for the park to thank the local community for supporting the park throughout the year. And it's really morphed into an annual homecoming for those folks who have moved outside of the area. They come back, families rent cottages at Ogilvy to really get that family experience, which I think is one thing that makes this festival a little bit unique and different from other holiday activities around the fall time.
Yeah, when you walk around the park during Ogilvy Fest, you do run into a lot of people maybe you haven't seen for a while if you grew up here in this area. But also, I always think it's cool to see not only like the artists and the food vendors and things of that nature, but also so many kids that are there with animals or whatever else it may be.
Absolutely. I mean, there is something for all ages, from children all the way up to retirees. I mean, there is something for everyone. Of course, we have Ogilvy Institute's Phil Maxwell Artists and Gourmet Markets, great artisan wares, food, live entertainment, things of that nature there. The Ohio County Fair is there, of course, with a whole host of activities there. We have a lot of free activities too, face painting, balloon art for kids, a parade, fireworks display, and of course the Rathskeller, and that's one of the most popular elements, live entertainment, German-style beer, food, dancing, and there's some great headliners this year too. So we have Hit Play, of course, that's a great local favorite, and all the entertainment is listed on Ogilvy's website, so you can see the full details right there, right on the homepage.
You know, you mentioned the fair, the Ohio County Fair. You know, people think, you hear a lot about the Marshall County Fair around here, the Belmont County Fair, but don't realize perhaps that the Ohio County Fair is actually part of Ogilvy Fest.
Exactly, yes, and they have a whole host of activities. They have some really interesting ones too, like baby crawling, rock throwing, some of those more traditional festival things as well. Animals, I mean, it's a really, really great place for kids as well. They can touch some of the more gentle animals, and that's one of my favorite elements of Ogilvy Fest. I highly recommend it.
You mentioned fireworks. I know people always like to know which night's the fireworks. So when will that be this year?
Yes, it's Saturday night.
Okay, so that'll be Saturday night, and a lot of good spots throughout the park, and a lot of people like to sit on the hillside and check out the fireworks. But
Absolutely.
always fun.
Yes, and stay afterwards to hit the Rathskeller for some live entertainment by Easy Street, and that's a great way to end the evening.
You know, we mentioned animals at the fair, but since we're talking animals a little bit, you know, another favorite fall activity, Boo at the Zoo.
Absolutely.
Dating back to even to, when I was a kid, and always a good time. And it's continued on through the years where I see a lot of my friends now that I would see there when I was a kid, now taking their kids there as well.
Absolutely. I grew up going every year as well. It was always one of my favorite activities, and it still is today, even as an adult, which is what makes it so special that I can still work there and be a part of it now. So that is the last 3 weekends in October, and this year the event is sponsored by the Health Plan, and kids can come in costume. We have a variety of treat stations, a spooky train ride, of course, that's always a favorite, and all the proceeds go back into the zoo. So some individuals might not realize this is actually a fall fundraiser for the Good Zoo. So they're doing something great. They're enjoying the fall season, and it's really a nice reason to get outside.
All right, so first weekend in October, Ogilvy Fest, then the next 3 after that, Boo at the Zoo.
That's correct.
Be a busy October, always at Ogilvy. And you know, the cool thing about the zoo, I've gone, I think, at least twice this summer, I know, seeing different displays now that maybe weren't there in the past. I mean, the red pandas are a great example. I know people are coming in from all over the country so they can interact with the animals.
It's true, absolutely. They are a standout, one of the most popular animals that we have. The Washington Post actually wrote a few articles about our red pandas last year, so that's been great to get people from outside the area, especially from the DC market. But some of the new attractions that folks can experience, we have the West Virginia Conservation Center. That's a brand new attraction. It's sponsored by Williams Companies. We have some bobcats there, hellbender salamanders, some interesting things that are more indigenous to the state in terms of plants and wildlife and things like that. It's just an area where folks can come and really learn about our state a little bit more.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it both times I was there this summer. Some new restaurants too that maybe people haven't had a chance to check out. Right. You know, up at Ogilvy, and people maybe don't know about them or maybe just haven't had a chance to stop by, but really getting good reviews.
Absolutely. So of course there's a garden bistro. We've had that for a few years, always a very popular choice. There's a garden right outside of the garden bistro where a lot of the menu, vegetables for the menu items are grown. So that's a really interesting element there. And of course we have Route 88 Barbecue and Brew. It rolled out again this year for a second year with an all new menu. It's been extremely popular. And these 2 restaurants will be wrapping up here in the end of October. There might be a few extended hours, but more or less it'll be the end of October. So this is really the final time for folks to get outside and enjoy those restaurants.
You know, the barbecue right there at the golf driving range ski slope area.
That's
and
right.
there's some fun things always going there. You can cook s'mores and there's live entertainment.
Absolutely.
The bistro, though, people have to sometimes look a little harder for it and may not know where that is.
It's true. Well, and we do have a new element up on the hilltop too that we can use as a landmark now. So if you're familiar with where the Palm Room is, there's also a brand new welcome center that sits right above the Garden Bistro. So you can actually enter through the welcome center, go down the steps to the Garden Bistro. At the welcome center, folks can find an awesome welcome video, talks about the park. There's a few different exhibits on display. You can see photos of the park and some other little relics. There's pieces of the model train that used to be at the Good Zoo that are there on display. I know that's a very popular element, especially around this area. So yeah, I would say check out the Welcome Center, go to dinner at the Garden Bistro. You have a great evening.
We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the winter activities that you might be able to experience at Oglebay in the upcoming months. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Recommended by the highest authorities. Danoon Lumber.
It's like a bad one's coming. Yeah. Right?
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest this week, Lindsey McGlaughlin, who works at Wheelhouse Creative as an account executive, but serves as the marketing manager at Oglebay in that capacity. And Lindsey, one thing I didn't mention is that a lot of people may recognize you from the weekly social media series, What's Up at Oglebay. Yeah, hey, come on, give us one really good one here.
And that's What's Up at Oglebay.
I've seen it so many times now on social media, and it really is a great way for people to hear about what's going to be happening that weekend. And I've heard a lot of people just go right to there and on the Facebook page to see what they're going to have to plan their weekend, basically. So.
Right. I mean, we've been so humbled by the amount of views and followers that we have, and we so appreciate it. I mean, really, the idea there is just to get the word out about the park. And maybe it's a silly message or a serious one, just getting people to understand we have so many activities going on.
Just did your 100th episode recently.
It's hard to believe, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the winter months a little bit. One of the big things, of course, one of the things that's really pushed Oglebay ahead through the years in the last couple decades is the Winter Festival of Lights. And of course, this year it'll be back, and it's exciting as ever.
Absolutely, and it's really hard to believe it's right around the corner. So the lights turn on November 7th, and they go all the way until January 5th. So it's a little bit longer show this year. We will have the 3D glasses again, the sleigh bands. They were a smash hit last year, so they're back again. All new lenses, so it'll be 4 different experiences. When you make a donation at the donation booth for $25, you'll get 4 different pairs of glasses, more than $25 in money-saving coupons you can use at various points of interest around the park. And folks can also look for a few new enhancements. Don't want to spill the beans yet, but there's a few more interactive things, selfie stations perhaps, but a lot of good things coming.
I really enjoyed the glasses last year. I didn't get to experience them as much as everyone else in the drive-thru because I was actually doing the driving, so I let everybody else kind of do it. But the cool thing about those glasses is that they make each point of light in the shape of whatever, a reindeer or different things.
Right.
But they also work on your tree at home or your lights on your house or whatever. So I was able to just put them on when I got back home and look at the Christmas tree, and then they were the same shapes as you would have seen if you were going through the lights.
I know, it's a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was cool. People always enjoy a lot of winter activities at Oglebay. It's one of the things that makes it so great is it really is a year-round park because there are things to do in the winter as well.
It's true. It's true. So we have skiing, of course. I mean, that's been around for a while. Snow tubing as well. So if folks haven't tried that, absolutely come up and give it a try. It's a lot of fun. I've tried it. it's great for people who don't necessarily know how to ski or like to ski, but it's still a way to get out there and get yourself on the slope.
Yeah, see, when I was a kid, you had to walk back up the hill. You had to go over there on the Crispin golf course, and you had to walk back up the hill with your sled. But now you can actually ride back up, I guess.
Right. It's for those lazy people, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a lot more enjoyable that way, trust me.
Yeah, my knees, it'd be better for them these days. I could handle it when I was a kid. I'm not sure I could walk back up now.
Right.
Of course, the ice rink at Wheeling Park, always a lot of fun for people too. And sometimes people forget, the parks being connected. That Oglebay and Wheeling Park are both part of the Wheeling Park Commission, so that's under your purview as well.
That's true. Yes, Wheeling Park is our sister park, and you're right. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Actually, Wheeling Park came to be before Oglebay, so there you have it. No, but during the wintertime, they have a great ice rink, and in fact, it's been undergoing a lot of modifications and improvements. So this winter, folks can expect an even better experience than they've had before there.
Well, that'll be great. I know that's it's something that's a little bit. I'd say, I don't want to say unique because it's not, but it's just different. A lot of cities don't have an outdoor ice rink anymore. I mean, you see a lot of indoor stuff, which is nice too, but I mean, if I'm going to skate, I kind of like to be out where you do have the cold air, and maybe it's just because it brings me back good memories of being a kid and then going and having the hot chocolate and stuff inside, but
that's right.
I think it's a lot of fun.
It is.
Well, Lindsey, I really appreciate being here on the show.
Thanks
and
for
doing
me.
Great things at Oglebay. I mean, I think really you go through the entire park, you can see the effect that you've had there and that others are having. So
thank you.
Thanks for all you're doing, because I think it's one of the true gems of our city here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Sure, thanks for being here.
You.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
You can love what you drive.
Sunset Motors is the 2019 Ohio Valley leader in Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and Dodge sales. During Ram Power Days, get a 2019 Ram starting at $30,998, or lease one for $299 per month. Lease a Compass Latitude for $279 per month, or buy starting at $19,990. Get a new Jeep Wrangler at $29,080, or lease one for $289 per month.
You can love what you drive at Sunset.
People in nursing homes are some of the most vulnerable members of our society. They're there because they can't take care of themselves. Those facilities have a duty to take care of our loved ones, and when they don't, it's important they're held accountable. We've not only collected record results against negligent nursing homes, but more importantly, we've helped so many families get the answers and closure they so badly needed.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and we'll start in the city of Pittsburgh, where, of course, the big news is Ben Roethlisberger out for the season with an elbow injury that requires surgery. And, what does that mean for the Steelers now sitting there 0-2? Of course, the season opening just pounding in Foxborough to the New England Patriots, and then close loss at home last weekend to Seattle. And, Mason Rudolph kind of acquitted himself well, but what will happen the rest of the year is the big question. And traded Josh Dobbs, week 10 days ago, and thinking, okay, we got our quarterback of the future, Mason Rudolph. Ben starting. Do we need a third quarterback kind of in that mix? And I like Hodge personally. I've said that on this show before. I think that that he'll do fine as a backup. The question is Mason Rudolph ready? And the short answer is no, he's not. I mean, you're never really ready. I mean, I don't know if you're ever ready to be an NFL quarterback, even though some guys come in and do well right away. It's tough to play quarterback in the NFL. I mean, there's a lot of things to process. There are a lot of throws you have to be able to make. There are a lot of checks you have to be able to make. But I think Mason Rudolph is as well equipped as anyone. He had the benefit of learning behind Ben Roethlisberger, be able to sit back, watch, observe, take it all in. He had a lot of success at Oklahoma State. So we'll see if that carries over. But I like what the Steelers organization did this week. Immediately upon Ben Roethlisberger being announced that he was out for the year, they went to work and said, we're going to send a message to our fans and, more importantly, perhaps the team, that this season isn't just going to be a throwaway. And they went out and got Minkah Fitzpatrick, great defensive back who was a high first-round draft pick last year, and put together a trade to get him up and get him in Pittsburgh and fill a need that's really been there for a while, needing another defensive back, and sending the message to the team, because it's easy just to say, hey, Ben's hurt, but we believe in Mason Rudolph, and we're going to be fine, and this season's still a long way to go. You can say all those things, but they put, kind of put their money where their mouth was and sent that clear message to the team that we believe we can still do things this year. So I liked that move. Now the Steelers have a tough, long trip to play this week against the 49ers. What happens? I think the team will rally in the face of adversity. I think they're going to get a win this week. But they've really dug a little hole here in the division early on, 0-2, but both against non-division opponents. So in the division, they're still fine. But in terms of fighting for playoff spots and perhaps even wild cards later on, you don't like to ever start 0-2. But they're going to be okay. Ravens, off to a hot start here. Browns kind of righted the ship a little bit against a bad team. But we'll continue to watch and see what happens with the Steelers. I'm excited to see what happens here with who appears to be the quarterback of the future, and maybe the quarterback for good, depending upon how and whether Ben's able to bounce back from this elbow surgery. He says he's going to, but we'll see. Let's set out your college football Saturday for you. First of all, at noon, number 11 Michigan at number 13 Wisconsin. Great Big Ten game. That'll be on Fox. Wisconsin at home. Both teams are coming off of byes, which is interesting. A lot of times you see one team or the other coming off of a bye. Both teams coming off an open week last week. Wisconsin has a great running game behind Jonathan Taylor, who's a great back. I listed him in the preseason as one of my Heisman favorites. But Michigan defense is always tough. They got a lot of talent. I think Michigan wins a close one here. They had that really close overtime game with Army a couple weeks ago, and I bet they had a really hard 2 weeks of practice. I think Michigan goes out and gets it done in this one. Then at 3:30, right here on WTRF on CBS, number 8 Auburn at number 17 Texas A&M. I think Auburn's way overrated at number 8. Let's start off with that. I mean, they had to come. They really should have lost to Oregon. Had to come back 3 touchdowns late in the game. I'm not sure either one of these teams can produce a ton of offense right now. They've already both played a tough out-of-conference game. That Oregon game with I talked about with Auburn, and of course Texas A&M had to go to Clemson and play there. But I give the edge to Texas A&M in this one, mostly because of the home field. I have always liked Jimbo Fisher as a coach. Both teams, I think well coached. Gus Malzahn's had a lot of success as well, but I give the edge to Texas A&M with the home field. Then at 3:30, Miami, Ohio at Ohio State. The Big Ten Network, Ohio State rolls in this one. Justin Fields has really been doing well at quarterback, continued to impress, and just too much talent there. They're really playing the wrong Miami. I mean, they should be playing, not really be playing Miami of Ohio, especially, they started the Big Ten season last week. But Ohio State rolls and continues things going the way they've been going so far this year. 4:30, WVU at Kansas. It'll be tough to get this game unless you want to pay for it a little bit. It's on ESPN+. Big win by the Mountaineers last weekend against NC State. I was at that game in Morgantown. Really impressed with Neil Brown and how he was able to rally that team. And, an interesting little coaching decision there late in the game. WVU scored to go up 17 points, and he took a knee on the extra point. And people were yelling, "What's he doing? What's he doing?" It was actually brilliant. The only way you can really lose that game at that point with the amount of time left was to keep it a 2-score game. And the only way that can happen right there is if NC State had blocked the extra point and run it back for the 2 points to cut it then to a 15-point game. So by taking a knee on the extra point, not risking a block, Neil Brown kept it a 3-score game at 17 and didn't risk it even to give up that 1 extra point because he knew it was more important not to give up 2 the other way. So really, that's a guy that thinks things through, and I think he's a great coach because of that. But Mountaineers finally ran the ball a little bit with both starting guards out. Interestingly, what happens when they return remains to be seen. But good performance. I think WVU goes against the win against Kansas this week, although they looked very impressive against Boston College. Les Miles, I knew would get that program going before too long. Then 8 o'clock, the big game of the day. Number 7 Notre Dame at number 3 Georgia, again right here on WTRF on CBS. Both coming off of easy wins. Georgia probably the best offensive line in the country. The defense is as deep as you can imagine. They got Fromm at quarterback, who's fantastic. But Notre Dame's got Ian Book, inexperience at linebacker, a little bit of a concern. The big test in this game will be early on, can Notre Dame run the football? That'll be what to watch for. Notre Dame's been some big-time games in recent years. Georgia, Michigan, LSU, Clemson. They've kind of split those games. I think Notre Dame gets it down the road and really surprise people. They're a big underdog going to Athens, but I think Notre Dame wins it and gets it done. Maybe speaking with my heart a little bit as a Notre Dame grad, but I think they win this one. That's all the time we have this week. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you again next time on the Jamie Bordas Show.